Ooh.
Oh, by the way, don't stream City Heroes.
Don't stream the what? Why?
Because
well, I can't right now, but why?
Technically speaking, since the servers are stolen code, that's legal reasons to shut down your stream. No, I mean to shut down your channel.
Good luck. Everyone, there's going to be people doing it left and right.
I didn't say there weren't going to be people who were doing it. I said you don't do it.
Good luck. The first thing that we broadcast is you scorning me.
Well, I got news for you.
Here's the name of the outfit that did your game.
Yeah. Yeah. Pack in.
Yes. What is that?
Very confusing.
What's up with that?
I swore for a long time I thought it was a pack-in game. Yeah. I was like, this would have been perfect for pack-in game, but no.
It depends on what your pack. If it was like the Aquarius or like something like a game from the '80s and you could do it, yeah, that would be impressive. But it's not. I'm gonna move that. I just want to. We're gonna make ourselves a little bit larger.
Oh God. Seems like the worst idea I've ever heard.
Well, yeah.
Hey, we got a thumbie already.
Thumb down. That was quick.
Thumb up.
Thumb up. Okay. I just assume at this point that the guy's gonna come in.
The first thumb up. Is
someone thumbed down me and Luke. I was like, man, what a jerk.
Well,
what?
No, I can understand that.
Why?
Because
he hates kids.
Yeah.
Your people out there that will just hate on children.
No, when you have a adult ran channel that then has a yappy jump around kid on it, I can understand that the
he's not. Yeah, that's my kid. You're calling him yappy? He's not Scooby. He's not Scrappy Doo. He is Scrappy Doo like. There's no doubt about that.
So, like I was saying, I could understand people not enjoying the connection there.
I don't get it. We don't even on the air for like 2 seconds.
Well,
I think he just came in to kill it and then left. I think it's one guy that hates us.
Okay, why do you worry about thumbs down? Thumbs down are... Here's the thing.
You are worried about him way more than me.
No, I embrace thumbs down.
Look how much coverage we got. Let the sun shine. No, you had to go ruin the illusion with your hand. Get that down.
Also, it's the wrong screen.
I know, but it looks cool. I'm saying.
I guarantee there are things about this game that you don't know that are gonna
which game?
My game.
Oh
that,
yeah,
that are gonna blow your mind.
Yeah.
Well, both positive and negative.
You know the one thing that blew my I can't get into it. I want to talk about these games desperately, especially your game. Your game is much more conversationally interesting than mine just because of its goofiness.
I agree. All right, you ready to start?
I'm not ready. I'll be ready in a moment. I'm going to briefly go through the whole Saturn rigmarole with the debut, the unceremonious debut, and all that jive. And we'll talk about the good parts about the Saturn. I don't want to kill it. Because also, Kim Justice just released a video on this that was awesome. I'm not going to even try to chime in.
The thing is, the Saturn did a lot of stupid things, and it needs to get killed a little bit.
Well, I know. I'll get my cup. Yeah. Hey, you leave today? I've got to give you those light bulbs. So I'm sick of looking at them. So you're taking them.
Probably not going to happen.
Why not?
Because as soon as I get done here, I got to go.
Dude, you could wait behind the back door for a second while I go get those light bulbs. Breaking them packed and everything. So take them with you. We'll see. Taking these damn light bulbs. Telling that right now. You are taking the light bulb. I'm giving you back a gift that you gave me that cost a fortune.
It costs a fortune. Although when you say it like that, you're quite the jerk, aren't you? I replaced your gift with something I prefer better.
Orale! Let's make sure we sound okay. How do we sound? Okay?
There's no one here.
This is the time.
Someone came in, gave us a thumbs up, and then left.
We get that a lot. The old love and run.
Considering it's Easter Sunday.
It's not Easter Sunday everywhere. And also, in some places, it's always Easter Sunday. Easter Island, for example. Well, it is. What?
That first statement was so stupid, it caused me physical pain.
Good.
I actually shut down for a moment.
I'm happy to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. I heard you in some meaningful way.
Necronom says it sounds good. He says that the sound is okay.
Why did I tape this? Of all the things. That's right. That's an astute observation right there, and you're mocking it.
What if it's what? But what about Monday on Easter Island? Is it still Easter Sunday?
Yeah, it is. It always is.
Oh, the pain.
Oh, please. You're not hurt.
The pain of it all.
Give me 1 second to flip through this.
All right, we need to get cranking.
I said give
our
me 1
adoring
second.
fan is waiting. Necronom, you're a swell guy. You are always I cannot think of the word that means you're always here. You're always in attendance. This is gonna be a good show. Actually, no. Without looking up, a fair amount of stuff from the Saturn's history.
Oh yeah.
Just because it was so horrible. There are a few bits where the green screen is eating through your skin.
Yeah, that's actually an illness I've got. Unfortunately, I'm working on that. But man, I'll tell you something. Let me get down here. I noticed that when I bent my head over, and you could see through to my brains.
Yeah,
never good.
It saw through your brain cavity for sure.
That. There we go. Let the sun shine. See, look, if I bend down, can you see through my brain?
No.
Beautiful. It's all coming together.
My brain to see through.
Take off. Take off, you hoser. Okay.
So, real quick, let's talk about the City of Heroes thing.
You said we were in a hurry. Like, we're in a hurry.
So, I logged in last night after they got the server stabilized.
Yeah.
And, well, Atlas Park was an absolute disaster.
Yeah, that's true.
I made my ways over to the Hollows.
Yeah.
Got into a group.
Yeah.
No lag.
The Hollows, I forgot about those.
Everything was just perfect.
I kept trying to go to Galaxy City. I was like, oh yeah, they got trashed. I forgot about and so the Hollows is up and running. I saw an update where they said like, yeah, go nuts, we got it, and so that's what I'm playing on.
So, I'm playing right, having a good old time.
Yeah.
Terry yells down, like, it's time for bed. I was like, oh, dang, no, man.
I like the fact that Terry makes you go to bed at a certain time.
Oh, no.
Sort of like a child.
No, she would say she was going to bed.
No, that's not what you said she said. She said time for bed. And then what did you do? You went to bed.
Actually, I played for 15 minutes.
You went to bed, folks.
Also, how is that a bad thing? I don't understand.
I think it's cute.
Oh, all right. Fair enough.
It was bad. I think it's cute. I sleep in a large bed with my wife. That's why now I'm the other guy now. Son of a gun.
So I'm playing a mastermind.
Uh-huh.
And this actually, I didn't think this was in the release, but it actually was. Beast Mastery. Yeah. Have you seen that?
I've heard of it.
Where you control
that was in the old game.
Well, it was, but you had to pay for it.
Oh yeah.
That's why I never played it. It's when after they put that free to play model. So you summon wolves, lions, and dire wolf.
Ooh, dire wolves.
So I'm enjoying the heck out. There seems to be a rip in the universe.
I'll take care of that. I've got some anti-rip static magnetic field barriers. Oh man, I warned you about this. I warned you. Didn't I warn you?
Which somehow fractured time and space. It's fixed forever.
It's tenuous, to say the least.
What are you doing? Are you leaving?
No. Wouldn't you? How's that?
Well, I mean, currently it's great.
I'm sure it won't fall down right in the middle of the show, humiliating us in the public eye.
Hey, Ravi. All right.
We better do this before the set falls down.
Let's fire
Listen, next week we're going to sew this thing down. We got to. It's killing me. We got to sew.
It's not killing me.
No, yeah, it is, because you're going to be more further humiliated.
After that sentence, I think I'm okay.
Shut up. All right. Are you ready? You ready to be like, let's make some magic. Some magic, dude. All right, you ready? What the hell is that?
Go. Remember, you have to hit start, wait a few seconds.
Oh, no kidding. Thanks for the update, Chief. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a heavenly edition of ARG Presents. I am Amigo Aaron, joined by a man who also suffered from a failed launch, the Brent.
What do you mean?
I don't know, but I just thought it was funny. So, if you joined us last week, we spun the wheel, we made the incredible deal, the miracle deal, the deal we never thought could happen. And finally, after all these months and years, the Sega Saturn, God bless it, this little piece came up on the wheel. This has been with us since Jump Street. It's in our logos. We had me and Boat personally manufactured this piece. God bless him. We love you, Boat, wherever you are, in bed, no doubt.
I'm going to guess church.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He could be there. So, this week,
Happy Easter.
That's right. We're going to be taking a look at the Sega Saturn.
Yes.
We're at the Saturn. Now, you were a big mover and shaker in the Saturn world back in the day. What do you remember about the old Saturn?
I loved the 2D fighters and 2D shooters of the Sega Saturn. They were incredible.
Well said. So what separated the Saturn from, say, the PlayStation at the time?
The Saturn focused a lot more on 2D, while the PlayStation had journeyed forth to the 3D realm.
And after what I've seen today, good move.
Well, the Sega could do 3D. It was just, it was harder. It was harder to program for.
We're gonna take a quick trip into the land of the Sega Saturn here, just to familiarize everyone with what it was all about. So, the Saturn came out in Japan in '94, November of '94.
Yeah.
Now, as I recall, it only came with a few titles at the time, and I think the packet was Virtua Fighter, which was one of the all-time biggest games in Japan.
Yeah.
And they had released sort of a Sega Genesis version of this.
Yes.
That was hideous.
Yes.
And then they released the CD32X version of this, which was less hideous. It
was playable
because the Genesis version was like the 2D version of that game. It was real bizarre. And then, of course, so here comes the Big Daddy. And as I recall, even the original version of the Sega Saturn Virtua Fighter wasn't great. I think they released another one. Didn't they release like a Virtua Fighter remix?
Yes.
That came after that, fixed some bugs.
And it was great.
So even, it was. I've got that one. So when that one came out, it was okay. And it sold pretty well in Japan. And then it was time to release it in the US of A.
Yes.
All right. Which that's a whole story unto itself. We'll get to that in a moment. Now, when this released in the US, you want to take a guess at the price back in 95 when this released, May of 90.
$3.99, wasn't it?
$3.99, or in today's money, $666. The worst number you could have on Easter. So, and of course, if you're in Europe, this came out a little later, July 8th of 95. So, what was the Saturn? Like Brent said, it was sort of a really hot roddy 2D console that they slapped some 3D crap in at the last minute, pretty much. It was.
I think it just took that long for people to figure it out.
It was a very unusual console.
Also, it rendered, while everyone else was rendering triangles for their 3D, they were rendering quads, and that was a bad idea.
Well,
don't do that.
It's funny because someone who's a neophyte, someone that doesn't know what's going on, which like myself, you wouldn't think much about that. It's like, but it's like, but that didn't make a difference from back in the day. Now,
it did.
Now Sega had already had some experience in the realm of CD-based systems with the Sega CD, or the Mega CD, if you will. And so they came into this console with some, idea of what they wanted.
You're right.
So that's why it's odd to me that they had. I guess the PlayStation forced their hand.
Yes.
But you could sort of tell, like for instance, this game, they never really truly dedicated the Saturn to a 3D game world, but they had plenty of games that came out for it. Your Tomb Raiders came out for it.
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff like that. But
even a lot of good fighting games.
The problem was, and I think you'll agree with me on this, is that when you compared it to the PlayStation's attempts at 3D, it wasn't as good generally. The way it was.
Yeah, no, you're right.
When you compared the Tomb Raider for the Saturn to the PlayStation was better. When it was just the way it was. Now that doesn't mean there were no good 3D games.
No, absolutely not.
But the word on the street. Now I'm not a programmer, but the word on the street is it was tough to program for as well.
Yes.
Well,
it used that dual processor technology, which really made it sort of a 16-bit system because almost no one used both of those processors at the same time.
Yeah. Now we talked about the 32X a while back in the Sega, and so this came on the heels of the release of the 32X in the U.S., which was poison move, because they had already, they let it be known that the Saturn was coming before the 32X even launched. So the 32X, it had its moment. It went away pretty quickly, and here this thing comes, and that didn't do it any favors.
Consumer confidence for Sega was at an all-time low because everyone felt, why should I buy something you're not going to support? And that really, it plagued them from the mid-Genesis era all the way to the end of their life because people didn't think they were going to support their systems. And really, you know what? They were right.
Yeah. So let's talk about the launch of this, because this is sort of the elephant in the room. The launch of the Saturn in the U.S. is one of the all-time blunders, or is considered one of the big blunders in the history of the world.
Incredible for a company that has so much history at launching consoles, and then they go and do something like this.
It also shows you the disconnect between Sega of America and Sega of Japan. So
they were rivals, really.
Well, in a weird way. In March of '95, the Sega America CEO, whose name was Tom Kalinske, they announced that the Saturn would be released in the U.S. on Saturn Day. Right, good one. I should have used that one, except it's Sunday.
You should have.
September 2nd, '95. So, that was Saturn Day, and let's face it, they love watching these things on games,
special days. Well, anything that makes you remember the day,
sure,
it's a good marketing ploy.
Well, no, Sega of Japan did not get the memo on this. They were like, no, we're not gonna do that. And so, at the Electronic Entertainment Expo E3 in LA on May 11th of '95. The same Kalinske went up and gave a speech about the Sega Saturn. He also unveiled the price, and then they basically said, "By the way, this is available right now."
Yeah,
right now in May.
Which really would have been a brilliant strategy if they had planned to do it.
Yeah,
they didn't plan to do it.
The problem was they didn't tell anyone they were doing that.
Yeah.
When I say anyone, I mean distributors, people making games,
yes,
people selling the games.
Yeah,
they didn't tell anyone they were doing this. It was a complete surprise. So you could go out theoretically that day or soon thereafter to your local electronics boutique, for example, and pick up a Saturn.
In theory,
if you wanted one.
In theory.
Now, here's the bad part of that. That was dumb. But then they got buried when the PlayStation guys came up, and this is another epic speech.
Yes.
They came up and get this long, boring diatribe about the PlayStation. Then they have their president come on stage, and he just goes, $299, and he just walks off.
Yes,
which was the price.
Absolute killer.
$100 less than the Saturn, and that was not good. So did not do them any favors. And so of course, Sega of Japan and America went to panic mode, and they really never recovered.
Never did.
That's amazing to think about, something that could cave into the launch.
Literally 3 numbers, or 1 number if you want to think about it that way. killed the Saturn.
Yeah.
And it never recovered.
And then you had, it's funny, my buddy, Rich, bought a PlayStation soon after it launched, because honestly, I wasn't keeping up with consoles that much.
Right.
And it came with Ridge Racer, which I'd played in the arcade, and which at the time, and I'm not sure how fondly history has looked on Ridge Racer, but at the time, I saw this in the arcade, and I remember telling my buddies, like, this is as good as graphics can be, the perfect game. It looked so incredible, and it was such a quantum leap from what you'd seen before. The music, the helicopter, all the cool stuff. And so this was a launch title that I think it was a pack-in, actually, with my buddy's PlayStation. And then you instantly look and say, what's the Saturn got? Well, they got Daytona or something, which, hey, Daytona's a good game.
Awesome
Arguably
game.
A better game.
Far better game.
But not as good looking.
No.
Not even close.
I'll agree with
so
that.
when you load those two up, you're just like, screw you, I'm going with this one. And then that pretty much, I remember the first batch of games he had was Wipeout. He had Ballerina Toshinden and Ridge Racer, and they were all, I really liked every single one of those.
They were all fun.
And then the Saturn's launch date, which you had sort of Virtual Fighter, which it was sort of aged the day it came out in a way. It had a look that was, the Virtual Fighter 2 is my Virtual Fighter. I love that one. And Virtua Fighter 1 is fun, but it looked kind of clunky when it came out. It just played great.
Yeah.
Then you've got, and I know I'm not comparing Ballerina Toshinden to Virtua Fighter because I think Virtua Fighter's a better game, but Toshinden looked smoother.
It did. It ran better.
It just looked better. It sounded better. It was probably a better feeling game, if not a better game.
It's a better commercial. It's a better commercial.
Right.
Like you said, Virtua Fighter was by far the superior playing game, as in techniques and fighting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But if you just saw Ballerina Toshinden on the screen, you're like, that looks incredible.
And I will say, we played the total crap. We played that more than any other games. So there you go.
I remember that. I was down there for that.
So, a funny thing happened on the way to the end of 1995. Sega dropped the price of the Saturn to $299.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, the one thing Saturn had going for it was Saturn arcade ports, and port they did.
Yes,
they were porting everything over to it. You had your like we mentioned, Virtua Fighter 2, Sega Championship Rally, Virtua Cop. You got your House of the Dead. You got the whole 9 yards. They're dropping everything on this thing. The problem was they couldn't turn this stuff out quick enough. It wasn't and PlayStation was cranking out games at an unbelievable rate.
It was incredible.
It's got to be one of the all-time, when it comes to systems that just had a crap load of software, for better or for worse, it's got to be one of the all-time big sellers because it was tons and tons of games and a shovelware to beat the band.
Yeah, this was really in an era. It was the end of an era where consoles tried to control their quality and release at least somewhat decent quality games. PlayStation said, screw that, we will take literally anything that you can stamp on a disc and put it in our system.
Yeah. Now, another thing that caused Saturn a lot of heartache was people were anxiously awaiting the next Sonic the Hedgehog game here in the States. In Japan, Sonic's like not that big a deal. Yeah. It wasn't nearly as big a thing as it was in the U.S., and they really never got a proper Sonic game on the Saturn, which is which is astounding.
Well, it is the disconnect between Sega of America and Sega of Japan. Since Sega of Japan didn't think it was that important, it wasn't that important. And Sega of America was saying, you're killing us. You're killing us over here.
So, yeah, it really was strange. So, from 93 to 96, Sega's foothold in the U.S. started to decline.
No, it fell off a cliff.
It did. And then in 96, when the N64, Nintendo 64 launched, they were boned.
Yeah, I mean,
the funny thing is, the Nintendo 64 was widely considered not a super successful console either.
It wasn't a success coming off of what the Super Nintendo had done, but it was still a decent console. But I mean, the coffin was already buried for Saturn at this point.
Yeah,
and I guess Nintendo just went over and just danced on the grave a little bit.
Yeah, it did not go well. And so, unfortunately, after a spell, the Sega Saturn was discontinued. Now,
sadly,
I will say this: this was a much greater success in Japan. than it did. Now, was it a super success? No. But you're talking numbers were like their business internationally went down 74% in this Saturn year, which is an incredible drop. So this this was discontinued in the United States or North America and the EU in '98. So you're looking at a very short run. Now it managed to claw on in Japan until about 2000, which is it had a couple more years. You want to take a crazy wild guess at the amount of units they sold on this bad boy
worldwide?
Yeah.
What?
You're going to be way off here, I can tell you.
I will say 8 million.
Oh, you weren't as far off as I thought. 9.26 million is the agreed upon number. Now, we've killed the Saturn in some ways, but now let's raise it up.
Okay.
This was not a bad console.
No. It was a bad console, but not for the reasons that you might think.
It had plenty of good games, first
Absolutely.
of all. It had arguably one of the all-time great joysticks or controllers.
Yes.
The 6-button...
not the ones that come with it.
No,
the arcade sticks.
No, I'm talking about the one... I like the gamepad with the 6 buttons. I think it's one of the better... Okay. I think it's one of the best controllers. It's widely agreed it's one of the best. I mean, it takes a 6-button controller and it works. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's simple. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to come up with this. And at the same generation as the N64's controller, I'll take this one every day of the week. Of course, the PlayStation also had a good solid controller. Plus, they had the analogs. It's funny. I was just at a flea market the other day and saw the crazy Saturn driving controller where you hold it a hand and it's like a revolving gimmick.
Yeah, they had all kinds of this type of thing.
Also you can use it for nights and stuff. But the Saturn has been looked upon fondly in the last few years. It's sort of taken off. I picked up 2 Saturns. One was given to me. One I paid $20 for, and they're going through the roof in a lot of ways. It's funny how the old stuff has become just like the Jag, except unlike the Jag, this has a crap load of good games.
Yeah.
Jag don't got nothing.
Yeah.
But the Saturn, you talk about the cartridge slot in this thing.
Well, let's talk real for a second.
All right.
The Saturn was a part of my childhood like no other console. It was...
Cue the violin music.
No, it really was, because it had the home port of X-Men vs. Street Fighter, which you could not play natively on a U.S. console because it never made the leap.
So what did you have to do to get that to work? I know, but
you had to use a action replay or mod your Saturn to first of all play imports, and the action replay would plug into the back cartridge slot of the Saturn. And the other thing that it did was add extra memory to play the games up to the 4 megs that are required to play X-Men vs. Street Fighter. This was the first time I ever imported anything, and my buddy and I imported the Darkstalkers, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, and something else. We got into a bundle, but the something else was crap, and I don't think we ever played it. But those games with the expansion pack, the colors on screen, the motion,
the colors, children,
it was incredible, and it was something that Saturn couldn't, or the PlayStation couldn't do, because the PlayStation version of X-Men vs. Street Fighter is crap. There's no tagging.
Listen, to be fair, we played the crap out of this. This is we played what we had.
Crap.
It's not as good. I'll agree.
Crap.
Okay, it's crap.
But the Sega, looking in the internals, which I didn't know this at the time because I didn't care. I just wanted to play the games. But the internals of the Saturn are a mess. They're an absolute mess because you have 2 processors that, I guess, when it was on the test bench, they said, programmers will figure out how to use these in tandem and you'll get tons of extra processing out of it. And it almost never happened. There are very few games that use both processors at the same time. What most people did was say, processor B, you can have like sound or something that would take no processing power anyway. And processor A, you're going to do everything else.
This is a very similar story to the Jaguar again.
Yes.
It's very similar. It's exact. They used the crap chip when the good chip was just like, I'm not going to fool with that.
Yeah, and it was just, it's unfortunate.
Path of least resistance.
It's unfortunate because if you could program can use all of the power of the Saturn, it could have done everything the PlayStation did. It could have. It could have. No, I think it could have, because it would have had just as much processing power.
Well,
now there are the 3D limitations. That's for sure.
And those being,
well, I mean, they used different technology to make their polygons.
Yeah,
and that was a huge deal. But Saturn, huge part of my childhood. It has my all-time favorite game on it, X-Men vs. Street Fighter, with the extra character. So
we remember.
It's incredible. It was incredible.
Not to everybody else. It wasn't. It wasn't off a cliff.
But you know what? Even though I have fond, happy, good memories about the Saturn, I understand that in the Idols of history, it was a failure. It didn't have enough good software to make it some kind of classic, awesome system.
It had a lot of good software.
It had good software, but not enough.
Well, if you look back over the library, and keep in mind that I've got a 3DO up here, I've got some other stuff, but I mean, the Saturn library is a lot better than a lot of libraries.
When you're talking about a system that 10 years prior was #1, the best-selling console of all time with the Genesis, then it should have been better.
Well, it was
because
what it was.
It wasn't first. It wasn't second. To say it was third would probably be debatable.
It was third.
I would say that would be debatable.
Who would be third?
I'm just saying there was enough other things.
The Jag showed up in there.
Well, the thing is there was enough other stuff out there that you could have arguably said the Jaguar was pushing out better software. It wasn't, but I can guarantee people would make an argument for it, because it was certainly
no one would make that argument.
It was certainly under the PlayStation, and was certainly under Nintendo 64 when quality software releases.
Well, that may be the case. So, one last thing I should mention before we move along is that if you have a Saturn, you lucky few, you probably know by now that just a few short years ago, a overriding hack was produced that you can stick in the cartridge slide. You get you one of these cheap Chinese action replay cartridges, do a little gimmick, a little magic, a little doodad, do a little dance, and then this thing will play. You can put a waffle into your Saturn. It'll spin that sucker up. And it's opened the door for cheap scumbags like me, because a lot of the big-time software or the stuff from overseas, as the prices soared high into the heavens, as high as Saturn itself.
Yeah.
And so you can't play them. But now with this, you can just knock off CD. And I believe the same technology they're using for the Dreamcast SD card reader in replacing the CD also is available for the Saturn, where you can just put the whole library on the SD card, set that in there, and just forego the entire disc.
You know, that's something that we shouldn't just gloss over. The copy protect for the Saturn was solid.
It was
solid.
Yeah, it was tough to get past. And like I said, with Brendan had to put the switch and stuff on there. It's just getting past the
region lock.
Yeah, just getting past the region lock, which probably didn't do any favors either, to be honest with you. But that's the way people were doing it back in those days. So, from the incredibly vast library of the Saturn, it's incredibly vast. Don't undersell it. We were tasked to choose a couple games. Now, keep in mind, we were tasked to choose 2 games out of the vast library, the beautiful, wonderful library of the Saturn. And Brent, tell the people the game you chose to cover from the Sega Saturn.
I chose Steep Slope Sliders.
That's what he chose. Carry on.
And I chose this for a very interesting reason.
Yeah, I gotta hear this.
Because I don't think a lot of people are aware of this. I certainly wasn't aware of it. Sega, much like the Naomi is kind of well known, the Dreamcast arcade system.
Yep, we had one.
That was a souped up Dreamcast hardware that ran arcade games
that they could port quickly and easily. Yeah.
The Saturn had the same thing. They had Sega Titan Video, ST-V.
Yep.
Unlike the Dreamcast equivalent, the Saturn was literally a Saturn that sat inside of an arcade machine, with the major difference being, instead of running CDs, they ran cartridges in their arcade system.
Okay.
And I mean literal, they look like Nintendo 64 cartridges that just plug into a slot and that's it.
That is wacky, considering they had a CD at home and the
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And the only other difference is it has upgraded sound, and it has just fractionally more memory. So they were taking games from this Sega Titan Video, and it was just instant. It could be at home. I'm talking about the transition. They could do it in like months, weeks. Just a small amount of time, and take these arcade perfect games and put them on the home console. Now, here's an interesting thing. So you've got this STV, the arcade system, and so Sega is putting these games into arcades, getting people hyped. They want to play this stuff at home, and then they say, "Oh crap, it's going to be available in 3 months." That's awesome. You're taking arcade quality games and you're bringing them home. Well, here's what happened with Steep Slope Sliders.
Yeah, I want to hear this part.
They were on a time crunch because in the late 90s, there was a huge boom for snowboarding things.
Like cool boarders.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was driven by where snowboarding had become an Olympic sport, and it was a craze. And you saw a ton of arcade games pop out and whatnot. Well, Steep Slope Sliders was going to be one of those games where you put it in the arcade, you get people excited, then you bring it home.
Right.
But it was also at the end of the lifespan of the Saturn, because in North America it came out in 97.
Really?
And the rest of the world in 98.
All right.
So here's what happened. In North America, SSS came out for the home consoles first. And then in Japan, this game came out in the arcade first.
Wacky. That's wacky.
This was, I can't think of another instance where the arcade port was a port from the home system.
That's unusual.
Due
I'm
to
sure it's
release
happened,
dates.
but that's pretty weird. Especially, what really surprised me, that this got an arcade release anywhere.
Yeah, this was a arcade release, and it didn't make it to Japanese homes until the end of 98.
Really?
So that's kind of interesting. I thought it was kind of interesting.
That's pretty good. You're off the hook on that. Now justify the game.
Now, what is Steep Slope Sliders? It's a snowboarding game that on the surface is very rudimentary. Your buttons are jump, grab, what am I missing? Jump, grab.
There's basically one way or the other.
You can spin.
Yeah, you basically.
Oh, flip.
Yeah.
I did it so early I couldn't remember. So your buttons are jump, grab, where you grab your board, and flip, which means you try to do a forward flip. You can also use the shoulder buttons to do rotation, but that's it. There's no like up, down makes you do this trick, or left, right, left makes you do this trick. They tried to take snowboarding and boil it down to its absolute easiest concept to make a fun game. Well, they did boil it down to its absolute easiest concept. There's no question there.
It is very basic.
What you have in this game is a handful of characters and 4 stages. That's it. You don't race other competitors. You only race against the clock.
They did give you a goodly amount of courses, I will say that. But you have extreme 0, 1, 2, and 3. You've got the half pipe, and you've also got the alpine, and then you've got whatever the first one is. That's a goodly amount.
Yeah, there are other types of courses, right? But it's all the same basic bear, homie.
Well, no, they're just different. They're totally different racetracks.
They're different race types.
Well, no, but they're totally different tracks.
You can't play like a trick track on the alpine slope where you have to go through the gates. You understand what I'm saying?
No, I don't get what you're saying. You can jump around like an idiot on any of the tracks,
right?
But I mean, you're not going to do the same thing on the half pipe that you do on the extreme too.
That's what I'm saying. So they had a very odd choice in this game, where it looked at the clock time on the Saturn, and let's say you're playing this game at 1:30 p.m. on the East Coast. Well, if you picked a Japanese course, it would say, what is the time zone transition? And it would use that day-night cycle for whatever course that you went to.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't even notice that.
Well,
that's kind of neat.
Well, the bad part of that is if you're playing a game and it's 4 a.m. on the course that you're going to, it's going to be dark. Yeah. And it's super... That's why some of the courses are super dark.
That's still cool, though. I kind of like that.
It's a good concept, but it was poorly executed.
You're winning me over here.
It was poorly executed. Now, there are codes that you can put in to choose what day, evening, or night.
There's codes in this.
Yeah, there are tons of codes. Okay. And in fact, this is... the amount of codes in this game are ridiculous because it unlocks 4 additional courses.
Oh, 4?
And you can unlock another dozen racers.
Good, because the racers that you start with are crap.
And you can also unlock a shooting minigame, but it's...
Ooh, shooting. But you get to shoot while you're snowboarding?
Here's the thing. Why hide this stuff behind unlockables and codes? When literally you are hiding half of your game. Half of your game. So a lot of people pick this up and think that there's not a lot of content because, there's only a handful of tracks to choose from. When in actuality, there's a whole space course where you're out in space. Cool. There's a virtual reality type thing where you're snowboarding on green lines.
Kind of like a virtual landscape. Yeah.
There's a South Pole course and there's a space half pipe that are all behind hidden codes.
There's a reason they hid this stuff, because the joy you get when you unlock them. I'll give you an example. I set a record on one of the courses, and it said, "Congratulations, you have unlocked boy."
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not sure that's good or not. And it said, "Hit hard to access boy." And I was like, I don't think I'll do that. But I did unlock boy. Boy has a great name too, just boy.
Yeah.
I've never played boy, but now let me ask you one other question.
I got a few more things to go over.
Okay, go ahead.
When this came out, I don't know if Sega didn't know how to market it or who to focus on, but they actually took the game to snowboard enthusiasts, like different snowboarding magazines and websites and stuff like that, and said, "Here's our snowboarding game. Go back and try to find some of those reviews and read them, because I sure have." This was one for Trans World Snowboarding. It is the driest review of a video game I've ever read. Really? If they didn't pay for this review, I don't know what's going on. Because they talk about the game, and they repeat themselves about 15 times. But it just goes to show that they were trying to get this to be a hit for a non-gaming community by how simple it was, by how they marketed it. And now the codes, I don't know who that's for. When you hide half your game behind codes, it's kind of confusing to me. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it. So, I didn't enjoy this game as much as other snowboarding games that were even out for the time. But I think what it did well enough to be a distraction for a half hour, 45 minutes until you play everything. What you think about it?
Well, I think, to get back to the basic this is one of the pitfalls of points of direct ports from the arcade. You're not going to have a real in-depth simulator in the arcade. You're going to keep it simple. And so when you get it home, it's not going to suddenly become deeper. It's basically the same game. So there's that. The character, one thing I was going to ask you earlier, the character selection screen where you go through and pick your guys, and you can pick from goofy or regular. Is the person in the cutoff shirt, is that a woman?
Yes.
Okay. Because this shows you the depth of graphic ability.
Well,
you look at these people, it's like they're one guy looked like Chris Sabo in his goggles, sort of like a mad scientist. And I'm like, I think this could be a girl, but I didn't hear her say anything. They don't do anything. They don't give them names.
No. Well, boy,
you unlocked boy. When you play this game, like there's a couple levels. I will say the levels are different. Some of the levels, whoever designed these, if these are real world levels, they should be taken out and killed.
They're not.
Give you an example. There's one level where you skid across train tracks, then you come across a moving train.
Yeah.
So good Lord, if you screw up there, you're going to be killed.
Yeah.
There are several levels where they drop you out of a helicopter, which I always think is kind of cool.
Well, that actually happens.
I know, but it's just cool looking. I do like
happens.
that. The lack of analog controls doesn't do this any favor.
You know, I never really had an issue with that.
Well,
I thought it played pretty well.
It doesn't do it any favors. I'll put it that way. I thought that was that hampered it. That's one thing when the PlayStation released a DualShock and you started getting the analog control, it gave you a leg up.
Yeah. On
some of these. These levels are there. I played almost every level. I tried to play them all. I mean, I don't know what the hidden ones, but the levels are diverse. I will say that there's some levels that are frustrating as hell that you get like. I mean, this is one of those invisible walls type games, and so. But if you try to veer off the path, you can get yourself screwed. If you like, there's a level where you go at the end of it. There you were snowboarding through this village. And right in the middle of the street, for some reason, guys will build homes right in the middle of the road. And when you hit one of these homes, it's super annoying to get out from behind.
Yeah, because you just have to bounce.
Yeah, and you look like an idiot too. You know, like and another thing, there's another level where you have to go to this like pretty dense forest. You know, and you're trying to scoop in about these trees, and that's another tough one because if you get behind the tree, that can be frustrating. There are lots of jumps and stuff. You can do tricks. You can also do tricks just during a normal course, not just a half pipe, but you're taking your life in your own hands. I assume that doing tricks will enhance your score, but usually I just went for time on those. I didn't even try to do any tricks.
Well, there are courses that are designed for time, and there are courses that are designed for tricks.
Well, you can do tricks on all of them.
Right, but there are courses that are designed specifically to jump off rocks and ledges and stuff.
They all have that stuff in them, though. You can do that on all of them.
But
there are some cool precipitous drops that you go off, and you can flip around, do crazy stuff in the air, which is, it's your usual deal. Now, let's talk about the music in this.
Ravey.
Idiot. There's one song in this that made me wonder if something had been broken. It was so bad. It would just stop and start. I was like, what is going on? But that's the song, because I went and looked it up. Yeah. And I was like, this is horrible. So there's one song in here. There's one song in here that should be taken out of the lexicon of the earth. This is no good. The rest of the music was the usual fare for this sort of game.
It's an electronic rave.
Yeah, it is.
Which, if that's your thing, it does a decent
job. I like that
job.
Stuff, but it's not that good. It's just generic. It's the word I would go with.
I didn't hate it.
I didn't think it was.
I'm not gonna go make a CD of it, but I didn't hate it.
No. When you on certain levels, it looks like what I remember. You've seen Blazing Saddles. Remember at the end where the bad guys come into the fake town and they knock over and there's fake people.
Okay,
right?
Now stop.
No, let me finish. I'll let you finish. There's a scene. It's probably the first level where you start out in this overhead view and you've got all these cardboard cutouts of people and they're standing like this or like this, and they're as obviously paper thin as they could be. The buildings are thin, and it looks like you're going through a movie set. And then the weird thing about that level, maybe you could explain this. I think it's the very first one I tried. It was the first one. It looks like you're in a gulag or escaping from the Berlin Wall or something. There's walls like barbed wire, and it looks like the paper cutouts look like armed guards. I was like, what is this? Dude, where are we skateboarding? Like behind enemy lines here?
Okay.
Bizarre.
You have to...
here we go. Disclaimer.
It is 3D of the time. Which, if
you don't have to make it obvious.
If you don't have 3D, if you don't have to make something 3D, you don't make it 3D.
Listen.
So I mean,
when you have obviously,
and when you're going down the hill, most of the time that kind of crap doesn't matter.
You start out in a rotating aerial view. Let me finish of the thing, and the people are standing there like this.
I know.
Stop. And they're clearly they're as thin and undimensional as yourself. Well, when it comes to that, there is no depth to these people. Don't pan around them when you clearly can't pull it off. Horrible. So that was a problem. But overall, I thought it was a normal, average, clunky sort of snowboarding game. It wasn't anything. I didn't actively want it to die. I just didn't think it was that great.
I 100% agree. I thought that everything about it was passable. Yeah. And not any better than that.
Before we move on, let's since we never do this, let's go ahead and we got a review on this, and let's sneak his review of this in our head. So our good buddy, our good friend, He provides us with booze and reviews. That's Graham W. Vebke.
Yes.
And he commented on this game. Steep Slope Sliders review. Steep Slope Sliders hasn't aged well with its polygons, but behind that is an easy-to-play game, better than most other snowboarding games at the time. It does have some dodgy collision detection, that's true, and the controls could be a bit less stiff, also true, but the tricks are easy to perform, and it's fun to put together flips and grinds, or you can just attempt to go as fast as you want instead. I hated the menu navigation, and the soundtrack is better turned off unless you are a raver. 7 out of 10. We didn't talk about the menus.
The menus are the worst, absolute worst part of the game.
When they come on, they just gotta go... And they're real slow. It's no good. They reminded me of remember Screamer had those kind of crazy menus that did that, but this is much worse than Screamer was.
This is one of the worst menu systems I've ever seen.
It's hideous.
It's slow and painful.
It's a hideous disaster. But otherwise, a perfectly pedestrian game, bro.
I agree.
So, let's move on to the main event of the evening.
This is definitely, the game you picked is definitely something more suited to the Saturn.
Correctamundo.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to be talking about a very interesting game called Galactic Attack. You know me, I like the games with the punchy titles, Brand. That's what I like to do. So, this bad boy from Taito, if you will, was released in Japan, North America, and the EU all in the same year, in 94, in the arcade. And then for the Saturn, it came out in 95 on all territories. Now, as I mentioned, this was an arcade game. In the arcade... this game has like 6 names, so let's go through them.
It's kind of crazy.
Okay, the arcade game was known as Ray Force. It was also known as Gunlock. All right, both of which, well, Gunlock is a more appropriate title, I guess. And then in North America, this was known, and I think EU as well, was known as Galactic Attack, which is a pretty generic game.
That's very generic.
But it tells you a little more than the Japanese name, Layer Selection, or Section, excuse me. Yeah. Layer Section. So, also weird is, what do you want? So what is this game? We're going to go with Galactic Attack, since we're in the United States, but you can fill in the blank for whatever else you want. So what is this game? This is a space shooter... actually, it's a space shooter. It's a ground-based shooter, and everything in between, an underground-based shooter with a gimmick. Right? Okay. I love the shooters with the gimmicks.
I do as well.
So let's talk about this. Of course, every good shooter has a cool story to fall back on. So here's the story. This is from the docs themselves. In the distant future, human governments across the planet construct a massive supercomputer named Con-Human. That was their big mistake right there. Con-Human is not a good thing. It's not a good start. Because you know what's going to happen.
Let's call our computer
Kill
Hitler.
The purpose of this computer is to govern the planet's environmental systems. Again, that's never a good move. However, disaster strikes after a cloned human's mind is linked with the system. Con-Human becomes sentient and insane. Never good. It begins to induce calamities across the planet, constructing corrupt clones of existing organisms, destroying its human masters, and exterminating the nature it was intended to protect. Not good. After a long war, Con-Human succeeded in exterminating 99.8% of mankind.
Oh man, pack it up. It's over.
with the remnants fleeing into space colonies. Meanwhile, Con-Human remakes the interior of the Earth. As a result, Earth, as humanity knew it, has utterly ceased to exist, transformed into a planet-sized mobile fortress that is, in fact, Con-Human's body. Which, that makes a lot of sense. So now, it's basically, long story short, you got to take Con-Human out.
That's right.
You can't have that thing. So, we've got the RVA-818 X-Lay Starfighter. A good punchy name for the Starfighter. To fight the oppressive machine by destroying the now infected Earth entirely. So that's what the plot of this game is. Your job, blow up your own planet. Now, trust me, I played this game and then I watched it to its end. And when at the end of the game, when you successfully blow up the Earth, you can imagine what my mind was thinking since I had not read what the story. So, because I was telling bros, like, are we the bad guys in this? What's happening? Why are we doing this? So, Galactic Attack, now that you have the backstory, what do? Well, you're in a cool-looking, sleek starfighter. This is your classic bullet hell Japanese shooter.
It is. Okay.
But you have a gimmick, and the gimmick is you have this little reticle that floats in front of your machine, and it reminds me very much like a Xevious. I mean, this is light years ahead graphically of Xevious, but I mean the premise is similar. If you've ever played the classic Namco game Xevious, you control, I think it's the sole view as you fly over a landscape, and you can use your reticle to drop bombs while you shoot. In this game, everything under you or planes under you that reticle goes across, it targets.
Yeah,
right.
Tags
and you can target everything that's under you. You've got a second button for missiles. You pop that sucker, and missiles shoot out and blow up everything you had targeted that's still on the screen. It sounds simple. It's actually pretty awesome, isn't it, Brent?
Well, and you don't have unlimited things you can target either. You pick up power-ups that will power up how much stuff you can actually target. So I think the max is like 12 or something. It's a lot.
I don't know what the max is. I doubt I ever got that. The good thing is you could just hold down the fire button and just blow things all to crap, which is cool. So the game actually is pretty awesome for a couple reasons. As you go through the game, you've got the multicolored power-ups. That's got that.
Well, you've got your ones that power up your lasers and ones that power up your main guns.
Yeah.
And then another one that powers up your main gun, but faster.
Right.
The yellow ones give you more power-ups than the red ones.
But faster.
That's right.
That's exactly what they do. So you're jacking up your guns. You've got your missiles. You're ready to go. Now, what are you fighting? Well, everything you can think of. You start out in deep space, basically. You're flying around. You're fighting other fighters. Stuff like that. And these
battle fleet.
The ships are cool. The first thing you see when you start the game are like almost like Star Destroyer locations, but thinner. They're under you, and that's when you realize you can use that reticle to target all these stuff, and you can, including enemy, big ships.
Yeah.
And you're hitting those missiles, and before these things even get to a screen where they can shoot you, you're already blazing away, blowing them up. It's a real cool effect. It makes you feel good, and plus, it gives them the incentive to put a lot of awesome details in the backgrounds of this game because there's a lot of stuff that's almost like hidden stuff that you wouldn't do. As long as you get that reticle over, it'll lock on. And you would be amazed at all the crazy stuff you can lock onto. There's tanks, there's mobile guns, there's all sorts of vehicles
connected to islands.
That's cool, which we'll get to that. So you start out in space, you go through, you fight. There's the boss battles, all the stuff you normally expect. Once you go through space, you're on your way to Earth, and there's an awesome sequence where you do a re-entry into Earth's atmosphere, and you're fighting. They're trying to get you there. Then as you come through Earth, you're in the upper atmosphere. You're fighting stuff there. As you come closer to Earth, like Brent said, there's an area where Con Human has constructed these floating islands that are connected with these like pipes, and you can blow away the pipes with your guns, and you'll see the islands just plummet to Earth.
Yeah.
That
was probably the neatest scene in the entire game.
That was pretty cool. Then you'll eventually you fight your way down to ground level. So, like I said, this game
inner core actually.
Well, I mean, eventually you get to ground, all the way from space. So you actually have followed your ship all the way, which is fun because you're on a journey. It's a mission. So that gives you an awesome bunch of different locales, right?
It's decent, yeah.
It's not much more than decent. It's
a good concept.
And then even when the little details I like. There's like when you're flying over the surface of the world. And by the way, Con Human hasn't done too bad a job on here. It actually looks pretty good.
Yeah, looks great.
There's waterfalls and forests and stuff. And so, I don't know why he's not killing that much nature. It looks pretty good. It looks pretty clean.
Yeah, but the story said he was using the Earth as a large Death Star.
I'm just saying it looks cool. So anyway. You fight
don't take the side of the AI.
And one thing I really like is after you get to a certain point, you're like in this industrial area, and you can see these holes in the Earth. And so there are like God knows how many layers of visuals there are as you are above. You're above this industrial complex, which is multi-layered, and then you can see these holes, and there's depth to the holes, and you can kind of see them as you go by. They change. This is the perfect use of the Saturn, this game.
Yeah.
Because it's 2D with 3D backgrounds that are rendered perfectly. You fly through cities. There are buildings that come and go, and they're rendered in 3D, and you pass through. It's awesome looking as you go by them. Eventually, you come to this big trench. that you have to fight this boss. One thing I like about this boss is he's a thing. I don't know who constructed this one. Con-Human has some flaws because he's got these legs that kind of wedge into this crevice.
Yeah.
And so once you blow one of the legs off, he just falls into the depths. Which I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's a spider clinging to both sides of the wall. And if you take off both the legs on one side, he can't hold on anymore, so he just falls off and dies.
And there are a lot. The bosses in this are, you've got your huge mechs, you've got your capital ships.
All your cliche shooter bosses are here. Giant wings with guns. Huge battleships with a bunch of turrets.
Everything, like stuff that has a death beam that comes on occasionally at the avoid. The levels of bullet hell in this are far surpass my skills. I don't know how far did you end up getting this?
First of all, this is not a bullet hell shooter. A bullet hell shooter is when your ship might be, 200 pixels big, but only one pixel in the middle is what actually matters. And there's literally hundreds of shots on the screen at the same time.
But what do you think it is?
This is an R-type shooter. It has as much shots on the screen as your R-types or your Dariuses.
I'm going to disagree with you big time.
No. You get
to points where the screen is all but full of fire. Don't. I disagree.
You can play this on multiple difficulties, and the higher difficulty you play on is definitely the more bullets and projectiles that are on screen. But it's always fair.
I didn't say it wasn't fair, and it's very patterny. I'll give you that.
It is.
You've got to wedge your ship into certain areas.
But when most people hear bullet hell, they think the whole game is dodging patterns of bullets, where literally only one pixel of your ship is going to be your hit box. That's not.
I disagree with you. This game has bullets. You have to dodge patterns of bullets, and if you don't, you get killed.
It's no more hectic than R-Type.
I disagree.
Or Raiden. Those type of games.
I think it's a little more hectic than. I think Raiden, you're closer, but I think it's a little more hectic than that. So, anyway, once you go down to this trench, you're down in the guts of the planet. Again, there's depth here. There are vast underground complexes and cities, and there's stuff going on there. It was awesome.
Yeah, pretty neat visuals.
And then eventually you come to Con-Human, which it's the first time I think in the whole game you stop going forward and you hover in front of this guy.
Yeah.
And you eventually, if you're studly enough, which I was, and I had to watch this part.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, watch it.
I did get 2 Earths. I didn't get past it. You get 4 continues unless you cheat, which I didn't know about. I wish I had. But once you get down here, you blow the robot up, and then your guy basically, effectively nukes the Earth.
Yeah.
And at the end, there's this brilliant explosion.
You blow up the core.
Yeah. There's an explosion, and the credits roll, and just showing all this rubble. And the last thing you see is your ship all mauled, and it says mission accomplished. And then the ship just shuts down, so presumably you're killed.
Well, yeah, because there's a huge hole in your windscreen.
But it was pretty awesome. The story was. I like that. I like the fact that it documents an entire journey down this thing. I think that was cool.
Yeah, I think that aspect of it is great. And I think having different difficulties, which actually affect how much stuff's on screen, is a great way to do a shooter. I think that the laser lock-on system, a ton of fun.
Yeah, that's great. That is glorious.
One of the reasons why I like Xevious as much as I do is that bombing system. Now, it's different than Xevious because since you just have to basically tag the thing, your target, and then you can move around and then it'll automatically shoot and hit it. It's different than Xevious, where you actually have to line up your shot and worry about the trajectory of your bomb, if it's going to scroll past where you're actually shooting.
You can basically just take your reticle and just go crazy on the screen and just hope you're going to get some stuff, whereas Xevious to be more precise.
And it's nice that it picks up. There are certain parts of the game where if you kill things in the background with your lasers, you'll have less ships coming on screen down the line, which that's a nice thing.
I like that too. This game also has simultaneous 2-player support. Always fun. Get the double trouble going on. That would be awesome, I think. Now, one thing this game has that I think is always tremendous, and there was plenty of Dreamcast that had these, is the Tate mode or Tate mode for us folks over in the USA. But I've always been told it was Tate. But what that means is you can take your computer screen or your monitor or your TV, flip that sucker on its side, and play it just like it was in the arcade. Now, I did this, believe it or not. I did this. I did it. And I played it. It was awesome because one thing this does for you is and I read this to confirm it, you'll get more stuff on the screen. It almost changes certain aspects of the game because you've done this. And I think that's a really cool way to play if you have the ability to do it. And what I did, don't even ask what I did. I basically turned it sideways, just kind of went on the side of the monitor, turned like this and played it. But I wanted to see it, and it was great. The Dreamcast had some games that did this, including, what's that real famous game that has the black and white?
What's one of the best shooters of all time?
That one, the Dreamcast does it, and it's an awesome mode, especially if you're an old arcade type. Now, these days, and things have changed. Like, we're looking at our arcade machine here, and we've got a massive TV, so you can play the shooters in all their glory. We've got enough real estate now, but back when this was released,
can you imagine turning a 42-inch television on its side? It would be awesome.
It would be bizarre, especially given the aspect ratio of these things. But it was a real cool gimmick for back in the day. I always loved games that do that.
Something else you could do on this game that was really smart is if you hit your left bumper on the stick, it gets rid of the HUD. Because the HUD is paramount to worthless. It's a one-hit
I didn't know
game.
about that when you told me. That's cool.
All the HUD really shows you is how many lasers you have that you can lock onto something.
Yeah, and I never used that.
It doesn't matter because you're too hectic. It's not like you're going to think, oh, I've got 9 locked on. I can only lock on 1 more. You just lock it on, hit the button, lock it on, hit the button.
Yeah. This is wacky. This game actually had a Microsoft Windows release.
Really?
To go alongside with Saturn. They also ported this over to the iOS and Android, so you could actually play this on your phone. If you're Good luck, by the way, on that one.
I wouldn't want to.
So, review-wise, this game did okay. It's funny to look back on these reviews that were contemporary with the game because they're much more critical about stuff. Next Gen, which I love Next Generation magazine, great magazine, 3 out of 5 stars. Maximum gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Sega Saturn magazine, these jerks, it's for their system. They give it a 79%. They should have given this 100% just for being out on their system at this time. They've just been begging for it. Basically, a lot of the reason people didn't think this game was super honest is that they thought it was dated for the time. The funny thing about that is,
when was it released?
This was released, so you had to ask. Got to go back and look. I think it was 95. It was released for Saturn in 95. I guess, you got to think people were becoming accustomed to 3D. Stuff like that. So when you go back and look at games like this is always a larf because stuff that seemed to age it back then seems great now because it aged so much better than this 3D stuff did. You look back on these shooters, you're like, man, these are glorious. I was playing a crap load of TurboGrafx shooters a couple months ago, and they look glorious. Because they age so well, as opposed to like going back and playing, like if you go back and play Tomb Raider on the Saturn,
sprite games age a lot better.
It's hideous looking.
This was the peak of sprite games.
Yeah.
This is when they had, they had all the technology there to do whatever they wanted with them.
Now, you could also play this on the original Xbox in the Taito Legends 2 collection, which is cool. In Japan, it was released on the Taito Memories, but you don't get the cool side mode. Which is that's a real bummer if you want to do this. This did have a prequel, which I thought was interesting, called Ray Crisis that was released in '98. So I guess it had to be a prequel because he blew up the Earth, which that's kind of cool. I had a chance to look this up on the eBay. $36 to $60. So it's not hideous, but that's
kind of funny because my game sells for $40 to $50.
There you go. So both Sega Saturn games have gone way up, and I don't collect for CD-based systems for the obvious reason. I'm always concerned that they're gonna flop over.
Now, one thing I want to mention about this game, one thing that I think is a must for shooters of this genre are power-ups, unique power-ups, and this game does not have unique power-ups.
It's not like some similar games of this era.
Yeah, you don't get wave beams and lasers.
No.
You have one gun that just shoots forward.
Yeah. And
as you collect your power-ups, it shoots more.
And this was something mentioned in some of these reviews that weren't wholly supportive.
Yeah, that bums me.
When you've got like a Raiden, the Raidens came along and they have all those crazy weapons,
guns and stuff. Yeah.
But I think the simplicity of the shooting in this, I kind of like that because that could get tedious. Also, the gimmick with the missiles, I think, is good enough to carry this thing through. And I will say, in my opinion, the backgrounds, the art in this is beyond reproach. The tunes are good. Everything about it, I think it looks great. It sounds great. You get a real cool feeling. I mean, it really feels like you're flying to the Earth. It really feels like you're flying into the Earth. You're underground. They did everything, and they used 3D in a good way. And thus, this game has really had a resurgence in the past 10 years. People are like, man, this was awesome. We got to get us some of this.
The other big problem with this game for me is the end-stage bosses have zero originality. They are all of your cliche shooter, your big wings, your battleship with a lot of turrets, your mechs. There were no end-boss enemies that were unique that made me go, man, that's an awesome concept.
I thought the tunnel crawler was pretty amusing. There was some,
but that's been done to death.
Here's the thing about that. This is. Do you want? I didn't want a game where you're going to have these goofy end bosses. I like something realistic.
No. You can do cool without doing.
I thought
goofy.
These bosses were pretty cool. They had some unique shooting patterns. I'm throwing that out. I'm not listening to that.
No.
Let's see what our good buddy...
I'm not saying the game's bad. I'm just saying it could have been better.
Yeah. Graham Vebke reviewed this one as well. When I think of the Saturn, it's all about shooter classics on that system, including Battle Garega and Do Don Pachi.
Yes,
and I think we can consider Galactic Attack to also be a classic. This Xevious on steroids vertical shooter has very little slowdown given the amount of sprites on the screen, and the gameplay can be brutal with only 4 continues. So casual shooter players might be put off by this. It has such great controls, awesome sound effects, and great music. A very unique power-up system with red, yellow laser options and a lock-on mode, making this worth a play. If you like these types of games, 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a very good summarization of that because I agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's a little high on the score, but teach their own.
Listen, Graham knows what he's talking about. Now, you know what it's time for. Much like Saturn, we have our own ring. It's called The Wheel. Let's get this sucker out. Brent, you don't even remember what we added this week. But
you said what you were going to try to add, but then you lost the puzzle piece, the point and click.
So what we're going to do this week is the old VR games.
Yes.
Crazy. We're out of control. Okay, so Brent, I'm going to let you do the honors.
Yeah, it's because every time you do it, you mess it up.
All right.
Good spin.
That was a good spin, man. And the winner is... I can't even see it. What is it?
It is VR games right off the bat.
Amazing. So, Brent, you thankfully have a VR setup that we'll be using to do this. Tell the fun people what VR we're going to be experiencing.
I have a Vive, so that will be what I'm experiencing for
And I will probably use a little gimmick that you bought me for my phone to do VR.
Yeah. You know what? There's some great games on that. What
is that thing called again? He bought it for me.
It's where you put the phone in and you have it on your
Samsung.
face.
It's awesome. VR something. But anyway, we'll have VR selections involved. It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Do we have any news we have to take care of? Anything you want to talk to people about? We're going to be sending out our arcade fun packs hopefully within the next week. I think we've almost cobbled those together for the winners of our arcade. And Brent has also we've also taken all those awesome suggestions and we're already moved on them.
Yeah,
and it's going to look awesome. I've seen some of the preliminary stuff and it looks great.
Hopefully, if not by next week, the week after that, we'll actually have some images we can show to the people of what we're going to be hanging in the arcade.
It's going to be cool.
Yeah.
You want to say hi to the people to chat?
We got Graham. Yeah, Graham. VR reviews are going to be tough.
We will pull it off.
Picard, Necronom, Ravi, Faye, Betsy.
Butchered. But we'll never see Faye Betsy in here again. I apologize, Faye.
Dan Ross. Man, a lot of people jumped in. I didn't even see him. Lobsternator X. Yeah. So thanks for joining us, folks.
Oblivious Brent. So,
Brent, no good, read name.
No, stupid, very dumb. So next week, VR games. Thanks for joining us. Have a happy Easter. And until next week, fire!
A good one, you.
That's what we do. Just hold the pose.
You didn't hit stop, man.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Listen, I know how to run this this show, this bad boy.
This was a little too Hitlery, so I noticed.
Why did you mention Hitler's name on Easter and then did a Hitler? Why don't you shave your mustache too?
I was trying to be robotic.
Have you never heard the rule about invoking the name of Hitler and Nazis in media? Give me a break.
I was trying to do I was trying to do an evil AI, but I realized what it looked like.
We both hate Hitler. I want to make
sure. Duh.
We need to record a supplemental thing on this about how we. Good Lord, Brent. Good God, my God.
I was trying to be an evil AI.
You're evil, all right. I'll give you that. The intelligence part of AI question. My God.
Oh.
Hey. Anybody out there in chat land have a VR set up?
I do.
I know you do, but you're not in chat land.
Yeah, I am. I'm right there.
God almighty. Of all the things to pop, eh? So this means I get to come to your house and play VR.
No, you're going to use your phone.
I'm going to look at your game, too.
Oh, yeah.
What, do you not want me at your house?
No, it's fine. I'll invite you over.
What are we having for dinner?
Actually... this is a perfect week for this.
Okay.
Because the wife will be out of town.
Yeah.
Come Thursday. So Thursday we can come over, and I know exactly what I'm going to play, and you're going to hate it.
You're not going to play that stupid thing where you run the hardware store or whatever, the convenience store.
No.
Right? Okay. Thank God.
No, I know.
This will give me a good excuse to actually purchase a VR game for my little headset.
No, I'm going to tell you what you're reviewing too.
What do you mean?
I'm going to give you a suggestion. You're going to be like, "Oh yeah, that was incredible. I'll have to do that."
What?
I'm not telling you now.
Well, you don't want to spoil it.
I don't want to spoil it for the people at home.
Yeah, they're really waiting with bated breath on this one too. Looks like we had a pretty good crowd today. I'm pretty happy with on Easter. Started off pretty slow.
For folks at chat, VR. You have to look past some of the media when it comes to VR. Some people hate VR because they don't have VR.
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
No, some people hate VR because they do not have VR and they haven't experienced new VR in the modern era. They're stuck on the old things that they played in the arcades or the Virtual Boys or the things that strap to their face with the phones. True VR is a very different experience. Is it ready for prime time? No. But it is vastly superior than anything else that we've ever had in VR. I could sit and play a VR. Something like Elite Dangerous is a perfect example of a game.
Is that the pick you're going to do?
No.
Because that one is... that would be a very popular choice, I'm sure.
It would be. You could sit down and play Elite Dangerous in VR for hours and hours and hours and hours and have a great time.
And never leave the dry dock because it's so slow.
What?
I'm just kidding. Oh, no. I was thinking about the original Elite.
No.
You can play for hours and hours and hours and never quite get out of the solar system because you run out of gas. It's funny. We just did on Amigos. We did a game that was...
Picard, I wouldn't buy a PSVR.
I hear they're quite popular.
Although I think the VR in it is a good experience. I think VR for a computer just has a wider variety of experiences and games. Again, though, it's a lot of money. When I got mine, it was $800 some because I got it on release. But it is... You can't describe to someone what it's like to play a VR game because if you're someone who can get lost into the experience, it's literally like being inside the game.
Now, you've got the gimmick where you can sort of walk around.
Yes.
Right? That'll be kind of fun. I haven't played yours since you got it, Arlib, just one time. We had everybody over once and then kicked us all out.
I think the biggest hang up on VR right now is screen resolution and being tethered by cables. And both things...
It's heavy, too.
And both things... And the weight can be a problem. Both things have been solved.
Motion sickness is another one people get sick about.
If you get motion sickness in VR, I'm sorry, because you're always going to get motion sickness in VR.
What is that, meshing or whatever, screen door effect?
Yeah. Well, I don't think that's not an issue. For me. It
sounds like an apologist to me, Brent.
No, I love VR.
He loves it.
I'm huge for it, but I understand that it's not going to be for everybody. But I think we'll have a fun episode next week.
This is by far the most modern thing we'll have covered on this show.
Well, yeah.
So now we're just gonna put it PlayStation 4 on here, Xbox One.
Dude, have you looked at the wheel? We're off the tracks.
It's funny. There's a lot of wacky stuff on the old wheel these days.
Okay, I gotta go.
You gotta go. All right.
I gotta go.
Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for showing up. We love you. I love you. Mwah, mwah. Throw them kisses, Brent. Throw them kisses.